Sure. A very warm welcome to all our esteemed panelists and dear participants to the webinar on 5Ds Reshaping Africa's Electricity Sector, Decarbonization, Digitalization, Decentralization, Disintermediation, and Decreasing Consumption. This webinar is being organized in collaboration with the Association of Power Utilities of Africa, APUA. Africa's power sector is undergoing a profound shift driven by the 5Ds, opening pathways to cleaner, smarter, and inclusive energy systems. Today, we explore these forces, share innovations from across the continent, and engage in collective thinking to shape a resilient, equitable energy future for Africa. With this background, we'll begin with the webinar. Here's a quick look at the agenda. The opening up remarks will be by Mr. Abel Tella, Director General, Association of Power Utilities of Africa. Theme presentation will be by Mr. Reggie Kumar Pillai, Chairman GSEF and President ISGF. On the panel, we have the following speakers: Mr. Andres Carvalho, CEO and founder 512 CMG, Mr. Ashish Khanna, Director General ISA, Mr. Luciano Martini, ex-co-chair RSE, Mr. Avinash Ethel, Strategic Program Director, Energy Networks Association, Mr. Ravi Sitapati, GSEF Ambassador for Americas, Mr. Mark McGranigan, a Fellow from EPRI, and Mr. Nick Singh, GSEF Ambassador, Anglophone countries in Africa. Here's a quick glance of our speakers. Before we begin with the webinar, I could request our esteemed panelists only to kindly switch on their cameras for a group photograph, please. Only the panelists and the speakers.
Everybody is there?
Yeah.
Yes, maybe Andres may not have joined.
Yes, Andres hasn't joined yet.
It's too early for him. 4:30 a.m.
Sagar, if you can confirm if the picture has been taken.
Done. Now it is done.
Yes, it's done.
Thank you. Requesting the audience to kindly keep their video off and be on mute when the session is in progress. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box. We'll answer them in the end of the session. Now I would like to invite Mr. Abel Tella to give the opening remarks. Mr. Abel Tella is the Director General of the African Power Utilities Association with over 40 years of experience in the energy sector. He is an electrical engineer with advanced qualifications in renewable energy, high voltage systems, and energy company management. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Ashima. On behalf of the Association of Power Utilities of Africa, it is my great honor to welcome you all, distinguished colleague, partner, and friend, to this important webinar jointly organized with the Global Smart Energy Federation. Today, we gathered to reflect on the 5Ds: decarbonization, digitalization, decentralization, disintermediation, and decreasing consumption. I would like to recall that the idea of choosing this issue of 5Ds for our joint webinar of this year raised from the participation of my friend Reggie Kumar Pillai to our as keynote speaker on a panel dedicated to the similar topics during our memorable Congress held in Cairo this year in Egypt. These 5 forces are not abstract concepts.
Free ho gaya charger.
Hello.
Sagar, please mute those who are in the audience. Thank you. Please continue.
There are very currents transforming our sector. They challenge us to rethink the way we generate, distribute, and consume electricity while opening new pathways for innovation, sustainability, and inclusion. Africa has a unique opportunity to leapfrog legacy systems and build resilient energy future that serve both our people and our planet. The webinar is more than a technical exchange. It's a platform for collaboration, strategic thinking, and collective action. By bringing together regulators, utility members, innovators, researchers, and civil society, we are weaving the partnership that will shape tomorrow's energy landscape. I wish to express my gratitude to our co-organizer, the Global Smart Energy Federation, and all dissenting speakers who will share the insight today. Your contribution will help us to identify best practices, highlight innovation pathway, and strengthen network across Africa and beyond. Let's this moment to listen, learn, inspire one other. Together, we can ensure that Africa electricity sector will only adapt the 5Ds for its development, delivering sustainable, inclusive, and transformative energy for all. Finally, I would like to convey my sincere apologies to all our speakers and participants because we do have some technical issue for programming simultaneous translation on this platform because we plan formally the webinar to be simultaneous English, French, Portuguese, but the challenge was not solved. So we inform all our partners that onward we will program on Zoom platform where we have this easy possibility to have simultaneous translation. I thank you for your presence and commitment, and for people waking up very early or people connecting very late on their place on the planet. I now invite you to embark on this each other rich exchange. Welcome, and let's begin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abel, for the warm opening address.
Ashima, Mr. Khanna has joined.
Uh, I just checked with his team. They said that he is joining.
I don't find him.
Shall we? Okay, please, Ashima, will you introduce our distinguished speakers to this panel?
Yes, I'll be doing that. But we were informed that Mr. Khanna has to leave early for an important meeting, and therefore we wanted him to join now and share his thoughts. I'm just checking with his team.
At the time, I would like to give the floor to Reggie.
No, I don't want to. Ashima, check with him. If he can come in next 3 minutes, it's fine. Otherwise, once I start the presentation, it will go for a longer period of time. And in between, that flow will be affected if he come to speak for. He will make a 5-10 minutes address because in International Solar Alliance is very focused on Africa basically. And as you know, most of the African countries are their members also. So he wanted to address. Ashima, any luck?
So he's joining in a few seconds.
Okay, very good. Excellent. Okay. Good evening, Ashish ji. Floor is yours.
Um,
Ashima, you can briefly introduce.
yeah, very warm welcome to you, sir. I would like to introduce to Mr. Ashish Khanna. He's the Director General of the Intersolar Alliance, and he has over 26 years of experience leading energy sector development in the private and public sectors in more than 15 developing countries. So we would like to have your thoughts.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I would like to thank the Global Smart Energy Federation and Association of Power Utilities of Africa, whom I have a long association. I see some of my friends. I've been involved in actually working with them on the distribution utilities rating process for quite some years, and lots of discussions over the last 3 to 5 years when I was in World Bank, and how we can actually use their expertise on the reforms in distribution utilities. I want to actually welcome this coordination, because indeed the India Smart Grid Forum and APUA are excellent partners in terms of taking forward some of the lessons, especially on Indian distribution companies. Coming from an international solar alliance, I will also want to say that Africa is a continent of huge untapped potential on solar. And for good or bad, one of the main reasons is actually the distribution company's inability to absorb that power because of lack of grid infrastructure, lack of adequate smart grids, lack of adequate metering, which is all linked to the decarbonization as one of the five, and digitization. Just to give you a sense that we analyze what's happening on solarizing in Africa, and compared to almost 30 gigawatts that India is doing annually, Africa does only 3 gigawatts a year. And if you take out Egypt and South Africa, that do 75% of that, you're looking at 1 gigawatt of solar only happening in Africa. We do an ease of doing solar ranking for all the African countries, and we are really keen to have a much better potential in Africa, because today out of 47 countries, only 2 countries are in the achiever status, and most of the 45 are either in influencers, progressive, and partial. And 80% of worldwide investments are happening in what in our rankings are achiever countries. So that really reflects. And then coming on to the theme of the 2 Ds that I'm going to speak about, one is decarbonization and one is digitalization. On decarbonization, I think the analysis of what is really needed has been done quite extensively. We have utilities that are financially stressed. They need a big push on smart meters and digitization to actually become financially viable. I worked on metering projects in probably 8 or 10 African countries, and I must confess it is something that the continent needs to take at a war footing. You cannot have a good utility without extensive metering, and of course, smart metering even more and more so. The second is, of course, on the transmission grids. It's absolutely important right now that if you really want to have decarbonization, having resource adequacy, transmission planning, and transmission grid investments are absolutely central. And unfortunately, some of the large countries in Africa, even today, whether you look at Nigeria, Ethiopia, Ghana, all of them, while having some regional interconnections that are happening at West Africa Power Pool level, South Africa Power Pool, East Africa Power Pool, Central Africa is of course in nascent stage. Within the country state transmission, there is a huge agenda of both digitization, because a lot of them don't even have basic SCADA, let alone talk about distribution, but also a huge investments that are needed on transmission system strengthening, especially if you have to do variable renewable energy integration. That's going to be a challenge to take care of solar and storage. In terms of digitization, which is also a very important element, let me also talk about something that I feel is going to be a great opportunity in Africa. I've worked extensively, as some of you know, in trying to get private sector participation and distribution, some through concession, some through management contract, some through privatization. And the experience, as you all know, is a little mixed. And I'm of the view right now that what's happening on AI in this can actually accelerate the intended efficiency benefits that the countries were really aspiring for through private sector participation. What I mean by that, in some of the Indian states, they are now trying to create a digital twin by having a digitization of all assets, and through a digital twin, not only managing the system more efficiently, right, in terms of distribution, transformer loading, to new connections, to fault detection, and of course, loss prevention and disconnections, which are the bulk of the real political and governance challenges in Africa, but also manage renewable energy optimization and planning. And today, these technologies that can manage digital twin process are much cheaper. India is trying to do it in less than $5–10 million on a particular DISCOM. And I will really like Africa to explore that how can a digital twinning with artificial intelligence algorithms be really used on a very large scale in Africa to bring in the efficiency in distribution company, which to me is the Achilles heel of Africa power sector. Once through digitization, if you are able to manage the distribution grids, more importantly, manage the operational inefficiencies of losses and collections, then your ability to attract private sector investment will go up manifold. So for me, that is a very big opportunity. From International Solar Alliance perspective, we are working on this as an offering through a multi-donor trust fund. We believe at least 10 utilities over the next 2 or 3 years should look at extensive digitization of distribution in addition to transmission as an essential arm for improving efficiency, renewable energy optimization, and of course, decarbonization as well. One another element of digitization is on digital tendering. I do believe that most of Africa still is looking at a physical tendering process, whereas in this forum, I will really urge the utilities from Africa to learn extensively on extensive digital e-tendering platforms that exist in India and other places. There is a potential for not only shortening the lead cycle for procurement, in a lot of places, the entire exercise is even for solar is done in less than 2 or 3 months. As some of you might have known, the prices for solar and storage is anything between 3 to 5 US cents right now in India. And that is a huge opportunity for bringing in transparency, but also the benefits. That is also a service that ISA is providing to all the African utility member countries if you need any digital e-tendering support. So what I will end purely in terms of my overall comments, I'll be very happy to have a conversation with all of you, is that the where Africa is in terms of enormous potential, not only on energy access through Mission 300, which I was very proud to be part of conceptualization and design, but especially on both transmission in terms of investments, but also SCADA and automation of all the systems. Looking at industry in terms of rooftop for CNI through decarbonization, and especially on distribution, both through tendering processes for new generation, for smart meters, and then the whole digital twinning. These are extensive opportunities for Africa to leapfrog and get the energy access and energy transition that I think Africans deserve. This would also ensure that while energy access, which is a very important human right more than a priority for Africa, Along with it, you can also have digital leapfrogging, because having worked in Africa extensively, I really believe Africa needs to now plan not only for energy access, but a digital leapfrogging as well. So that's the real opportunity. Very happy to have a conversation and see how can I say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashish.
Thank you so much, Ashish, for your speech and introduction. I know that your schedule is very heavy today, so you'll not be staying long with us, but just one question from ESI experience. What key step can help African country scale solar adoption for faster decarbonization?
Thank you, Evan. So I'll answer that in two parts. And since this is also a great opportunity for a coordination between APUA and Global Smart Energy Forum, the first opportunity I want to really focus on is on distributed renewable energy. And where Africa is now doing a lot more on mini grids and solar home systems, one place where Africa has not done more, where ISA is very committed, is actually on solarization of agriculture. You know, not many Africans are aware that only 4% of arable land which can be irrigated actually has irrigation in Africa. 4%. That's criminal for food security, not acceptable. That percentage is 60% in India and almost 70% in China. That has led to food security. So when I meet now the heads of states in Africa, they often want to prioritize solarization of agriculture, which looks at solar pumps. Solar pumps now cost 1/3 of a diesel pump. And because Africa often cannot have huge river-based irrigation systems that have been, say, invested in South Asia and other parts of Asia and Latin America, it is probably solar pumps are going to be the cheapest and fastest way for doing irrigation and additional farming or growing 2 or 3 crops by a farmer in Africa. Now, India is just completing a program of 3.5 million solar pumps. And one of the Indian states called Maharashtra has already done 9 gigawatts of solarization of Africa, saving almost $500 million to the government, in addition to giving much better quality of power supply to farmers through pumps. I think that is a great story where Africa must take it as a priority, including the distribution companies who can play a very important. The second aspect within DRE is on solar rooftop. You know, I was in Ghana in September and I saw 18 megawatts of a warehouse having solar rooftop in Ghana. How long can African industries wait for everything to become better in order not to industrialize? Today, solar rooftop is at a cost of only around 5 or 6 US cents. Almost 1/4 the average tariff in Africa. And I think while distribution companies may often see solar rooftop as part of a problem rather than a solution, I do feel distribution companies should work very closely on doing a very large scale solar rooftop program. And that is what ISA is committed to. My final third point in terms of African countries for solar adoption is on utility scale solar. On utility scale solar, I was very fortunate that I did the first joint procurement of Liberia, Chad, Togo, and Sierra Leone. 4 countries did a joint procurement of solar through a project called Reshaping that I had envisaged and undertaken. And I don't know how many of you know that the tariff discovered in competitive bidding, agreed with IDA concessional money, was 4.5 US cents, including solar and storage. So the main problem in Africa, which is very high cost of generation of almost 15 US cents, and therefore the tariffs are so high, that requires a very large scale, utility scale solar programs where smaller countries should come together and do joint bidding, and some of the large regional infrastructure like the CLSG line, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea line, all of them which have substations should have large solar parks that can feed into the regional grids. So I think these two things, where small countries do joint procurement and there are large solar parks feeding into some of the regional transmission infrastructure, these are the three big opportunities.
Thank you so much. I wish we have a very uh, good joint uh, um, discussion panel in Delhi or somewhere Africa with our common program that we will relaunch, because our cooperation with ESI will be reactivated now. And so I wish we do more and benefit from your insight. Thank you so much. Reggie, any question to Ashish?
You're muted, Reggie. I can't hear you, sorry.
Reggie?
Sir, you are on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
You can.
Okay, you can see the screen.
So
The
we
screen is
wanted, yes, we can see the screen, sir. Do you have any questions for Mr. Khanna?
not immediately.
Okay.
We are most welcome to continue this presentation.
Thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing your insights. Thank you, Mr. Khanna.
Before
Now I
Good to
would
see you,
like to.
Luciano.
before Mr. Khan is leaving, I want to say hi. It was a pleasure being at the COP30 at your pavilion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luciano. Great to see you as well. And I just want to let everyone know that we are very committed for the digitization, decarbonization through solar, but even including decentralization that I already started speaking. The timing for that in Africa is absolutely right, and the possible collaboration between India and other countries in taking forward for that is just enormous. Please count on our support, and thank you very much once again.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ashish.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite Mr. Reggie Kumar Pillai, Chairman, Global Smart Energy Federation, to make the theme presentation on the 5Ds, a strategic lens for Africa's energy future. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants from around the globe. Thank you very much, APUA, for organizing this, rather suggesting this. As Director General Abeltella mentioned in his opening remarks, we had the same presentation at the APUA Congress in September in Cairo, but there we had very little time, like in every conference. So, and the topic was so captivating that people suggested we should have a longer session. Hence, this webinar today. Although I scheduled an hour for this presentation, but we'll try to do it as soon as possible, 30-40 minutes. So, but the slides will be available to everybody. Recording will be available to everybody. Please try to which will be shared with everyone. And slide I will try to convert into Spanish and Portuguese also, and share with APUA for the respective country members. So, as most of you know, India Smart Grid Forum is a think tank.
Please display the screen in full mode.
It is full mode only. It is full screen mode only. No?
No, sir. I cannot see it in full screen.
No, sir.
Not yet.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now?
Not yet.
I don't know.
For me, it's a full screen. Maybe.
Okay.
It's
Bala,
okay.
can you confirm?
No, same. It's same.
Okay.
It's not full screen?
Devaj, Sagar, can you confirm
No,
if it's
sir.
a full screen?
No, I can
Not yet.
see the PPT mode, which is not the full screen.
This is some problem. I don't know. For me, it's a full screen. Let me just go out and once again do it. Give me a second. We are losing time. As most of you know, India Smart Grid Forum is a think tank established by Government of India in 2011. We have been advocating for energy transition, electric mobility, grid modernization, digitalization of utilities, etc. over the years, and several policies and programs of Government of India recent in the past decade as our signature on that. Policies, programs, projects, all of them. So some of the key contributions are in the backup slides, which is not relevant in today's discussion. But I would like to give a brief glimpse of Indian power sector. Why are we talking about it to Africa and other developing countries? Because we have done phenomenal work in developing the power system. In 1947, when India gained independence, we had only 1,300 megawatt or 1.3 gigawatt of generation capacity. So most of India lived in darkness. So and independent India took power system development in right earnest. The top priority, both central government as well as state government engaged in development of the power system. As we speak today, we are 505 gigawatt of total grid connected capacity, which is about 388 times growth in 77 years, which is unprecedented in the history of power system development anywhere in the world. And our demand, according to the recent report, is that going to be tripling in by 2035. So look at many of the new areas. But despite all this, our per capita consumption is going presently is 1/3 of the global average. And even if it triples, total energy consumption triples by 2035, it will still be somewhere way below the world average. So you can see how much of it we are going to move for. Work need to be done in India in power sector. So these are the 5Ds, which each one of them will be taking in detail, particularly the decarbonization. We have several slides on that. All of them, I will not go through it. But so most of you returned from COP recently. So what is achieved is questionable. But 139 countries, 343 cities, and 1,282 companies have set their net zero target, varying from 2035, which is Finland, the earliest, to 2070, India, and a couple of other countries. Many other European countries, etc., are by 2045 or 2050. China and Russia are 2060. So out of this 1,282 companies, 52 companies are from India who have set their net zero target, varying from 2030 to 2045. And the big companies around the globe, like Apple, Alphabet, Meta, IBM, etc., they have set their target 2030. That's a very early, and they are working globally. So what they are doing, how they are achieving this would be a good lesson for many other countries, organizations to see. And there is a net zero tracker.net which is given here on the slide. You could see who are all those companies and which are all the cities. So although at political level in certain countries there may be policy reversal, but at city level and institution or company level, there are not much reversals. So the main strategy which has emerged for decarbonization is electrify all sectors and take the electricity sector and decarbonize the power sector. So that's a strategy which is being followed by almost all countries, all industries, all. So as part of this, it is estimated that 2 billion machines that are presently run on fossil fuel will be electrified in the coming 2 to 3 decades. And global power sector capacity, 8.5 to 9 terawatt in 2024, is estimated to double to 18 terawatt by
Mr. Reddy, sir,
2050.
sorry for interrupting. Slides are not moving, sir.
Eh? This is the same slide. You are not on this slide?
Sir, we are in India Smart Grid Forum slide only, first slide.
It has not moved forward. There's
No,
some
sir.
problem.
Yeah.
There's some problem. Can you project it? I will stop sharing. I think some problem with it. Bala, you can project it. Sorry, you should have stopped me earlier.
Bala, can you project the screen?
Yeah, he has the PPT.
Okay.
And then
Yeah. So just go back. I was talking about the in India achievement of the power sector. So we have done phenomenal work of developing power system from virtually nothing at independence to 505 gigawatt, which is the third largest power system in the world, and we are expected to multiply in the coming 10 years to 3 times the energy consumption in 2023. Even then, we are currently at one third of the global average of world average of per capita consumption, which may double to somewhere around 2600 by 2035. So huge amount of work need to be done in India in the power sector, and we have done all kind of transformations in the last 2 decades. That's why many countries are looking at India in decarbonization. Next slide. So we will be talking about, Bala, move to the next slide. Yeah. Each one of them, there are several slides. We'll go through in detail. Come to the next one. Next. Yeah, I said 139 countries have some kind of policy or law or rules for decarbonization as of now, and 343 cities also have their decarbonization targets, and there are 1,282 companies, they have set their net zero targets. And at the country level, Finland is one of the earliest, which has set a target of 2035, and India is 2070. Many countries are in between, and 52 countries out of this 1,282 are from India, and 100 plus companies have pledged net zero by 2030, which include big organizations like Apple, Meta, IBM, Microsoft, etc. And we have few from India also in that list. And electrification has emerged as the main strategy for transition, energy transition, and electrify everything and decarbonize the power sector. That's a philosophy being followed by every country in this decarbonization journey. And it is estimated that over 2 billion machines that are presently run on fossil fuels are likely to be electrified in the coming decades. The global power generation capacity, 8.5 to 9 terawatt last year, is estimated to double to 17 to 80 terawatt by 2050 and 25 terawatt by 2070 to achieve all these net zero targets across. So 80 million kilometers of new transmission and distribution lines will be built in next 25 years at a cost of $21 trillion, which is almost equivalent to the size of the global grid, which we have built in 130 years. So look at the challenges ahead of us, what we need to do. And we have done a series of webinar in 2024 with a friend of mine, Michael Bernard. So he spent long time, 15 years he spent going to different countries, what is done by each industry in decarbonization, and what works, what did not work, and based on which he has done this very detailed presentation. Each one of them is an hour and a half, including Q&A, and this is available and should go. And the key theme is that billions and billions of dollars will be spent by different countries in decarbonization. Unless they study and plan well, much of that money will be wasted. And such wasteful expenditure can happen in developing countries more than in developed countries. So that is a crux of this, or the 11% webinars which we have done in 2024. The links are there, YouTube videos are there. Conveniently, please look at it. So Mr. Ashish Khanna had talked about the solar energy revolution. It's the cheapest energy in human history at 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour. No other form of energy was ever affordable. And solar plus wind plus battery will be a game changer. And then there are many numbers, you could go through it from the slide. I will not repeat it. In 2004, we had, just go back to the previous slide. Yeah, in 2004, entire world installed 1 gigawatt. Last year, we installed every day more than 1 gigawatt or 1.5 gigawatt. That's the way the solar has scaled up. Today, there are about 2,200 gigawatt of solar capacity, which is expected to be 4,800 by 2030. Come to the next one. Yeah, here, very reputed organization like BNEF projected the battery prices will be somewhere around $62 per kilowatt hour in 2030. It's already $36 per kilowatt hour. The 2018 prediction. So in solar and in battery, every prediction the market has beaten. And at this level, solar plus storage will be an answer for most of the energy problems around the world. Go to the next slide. Yeah, decarbonizing the power sector, so we used to increase RE supply and RE use, reduce use of coal and oil, increase electrification, mobility, cooking, agriculture, etc. Increase use of RE for all sectors, increase energy efficiency and dynamic RE markets. You can come to the next one, Bala. So here we are talking about 12 different initiatives for decarbonizing the power systems, and each one of them there are detailed slides as you move forward. Unleashes PV revolution, electrification of the transport sector, increase electrification to other industries and other sectors of the economy, promote distributed energy storage systems, mandate district cooling systems, promote electric cooking, stop building new plants and go nuclear, and new policies, regulations, and innovative tariffs, promote peer-to-peer trading of green energy and create local green energy communities, and promote microgrids, digitalization of utilities and new grid architecture, reduce waste generation, and promote waste-to-energy plant through strict mandates. So next, here, unleash a solar energy revolution. Here, the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, recently released a report which estimated India's solar potential as 10,800 gigawatt, of which 960 gigawatt is from rooftops. As we speak, we have done about 130 gigawatt, including some 16 or 17 gigawatt of rooftops. And currently we have a program promoting about 30 gigawatt of rooftops. And we expect this solar capacity by 2030 to exceed 300. But look at the potential. Solar potential is very high. Even ministry's own estimates are more than 3,200 gigawatts. So with our RE target of 2030, 500 gigawatt is not going to stop there. That will add zeros in the years to come or decades to come before we reach net zero power system. So floating solar PV, agrivoltaics, all of them have become commercially viable today. So which should be wherever there are space available, there should be solar. Come to the next slide. Yeah, increase electrification, displace coal, oil, gas, promote electrification of industries, promote electrification of agriculture. Is electrification of more sectors will provide constant load on the grid to make the load curve flat, which will make electricity cheaper and more affordable to all sectors. So with the green hydrogen, there are hundreds of or thousands of projects which are announced, but the offtake, the buyers for the green hydrogen at $5 to $8 per kg are not there many. So what we have been talking about, start using blue hydrogen or gray hydrogen so that total hydrogen capacity, the market is increased, and then slowly clean the hydrogen from gray to blue, blue to green. Next. Here, next slide, Bala. Yeah, here we are talking about the transport sector. We all know that EVs are become at the latest price point. EVs are going to be cheaper than ICE vehicles. So the electric vehicle prices which you are seeing today are all the battery prices of 2023 and 2024, when the battery prices were close to $100 per kilowatt hour. When it's going to be the new generation of batteries which are available at $35 to $40 per kilowatt hour, EVs are going to be smaller than, cheaper than ICE vehicles. So we need to mandate only EV only zones in all district headquarters, towns, etc. All new buses, all new taxis, all three-wheelers, etc. should be from, say, 2030, 2028. Every country, every city need to say that from next year onwards, all new vehicles will be electric. That kind of strict mandate only will help. That is what Beijing had done to reduce their pollution. Delhi, we are still battling this every year. So phasing out of IC vehicles on a phased manner by 2030, 2040, and also mandating goods transportation in select routes by electric trucks only. So we have demonstrated in 2023 the transportation of goods by electric trucks on industrial corridors in North India. And we have also demonstrated this year that EVs can be charged with green electricity contracted on blockchain platforms, and that will create a certificate of origin, an NFT, can be generated. I talk about it later in another slide. Come to the next slide. So continuing on the electrification, the vehicle to grid technologies we have demonstrated. We have 4 Tata Nexon vehicles we have retrofitted with bidirectional power modules and bidirectional chargers, and we have the 3 of those vehicles are in Delhi with the 3 private distribution companies, electricity distribution companies, one in Kerala with the Renewable Energy Agency. So from March onwards, these vehicles are working. This is a AC V2G demo, first time in India or in the South Asia continent. So virtual power plant, look at thousands of EVs which with V2G functionality connected to the grid can be aggregated as virtual power plant. So this will also support renewable integration in a big way, because electric vehicles and rooftop solar are both connected to the low voltage grid. And as the cloud moves, the solar generation dips, and which can be immediately mitigated by the electric vehicles which are connected to the same feeder. And we also have worked on the school bus electrification, and by school bus is a very good candidate for electrification and grid support with V2G functionalities. School buses run only 3-4 hours. The rest of the time it is standing in the school. And also peak summer and peak winter, when grid needs support, the schools are closed and the buses are available 24/7 for that. And schools have large roof where you could install solar panels. So transportation as a service is something which is emerging. TaaS we are talking about, and all delivery drones, passenger drones, and other kinds of drones will require electricity. And we will also see fast charging, ultra fast charging, wireless charging, and electrify highways in the next 5 to 7 years everywhere. So about 2.7 billion hectares of parking space are expected to be free in next 10-15 years, when everything becomes transportation as a service. Nobody will own a car actually, because it will be much cheaper to use robo taxis and shared transport. Next, please. Yeah, promote distributed energy storage systems in many developing countries, including India. There are thousands and thousands of megawatts of large DG sets connected to the, as a standby power arrangement in the buildings. So since electricity was never reliable in many of these developing countries, every large building and campuses, they have diesel generating set for that emergency power supply arrangements. And this today at $1 per liter in most part of the world for a 1 kilowatt hour of electricity from a DG set can be up to 40 cents per kilowatt hour. It's very, very expensive, whereas power from battery energy storage system can be less than 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So there is already a business model for doing that. Some of the we have published a white paper in 2020 about, even then the battery prices were almost 4 times more than what it is. We had found in a city or a state where annual power cut is more than 500 hours. Even those days, we found return on investment of replacement of DG with a BESS, battery energy storage system, is less than 5 years. Today, it could be 1 year or 1.5 years in most part of the country or most part of the world. So we also go back to the previous one. Yeah, there's a program in India, but most of them know about it. It's a PM Surya Ghar Yojana, where about 80% of the cost of solar panels are being given as subsidies to for installing 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt, and 3 kilowatt in households, low income and poor households, so that their electricity will be free. But what we have been advocating is that this is not spent properly. We are arguing that the subsidy should move from the solar panel to the batteries. There should be storage with these people, for which there should be subsidies which are given. There are no house, no roof which can be less than few million rupees or tens of millions of rupees. If people can afford a roof, they can afford 2, 3, 4, 5 kilowatt of solar rooftop. That could be made part of the house building cost or house building loan. And all new buildings and campuses with more than 100 kilowatt load to be mandated to have 2 hours of BESS. These are all advocacy which we are doing. And that's also a very interesting term which is coined this year by some people are flexumers. Those who can provide flexibility services to the grid are called flexumers. So if you are on the 5th floor of a 10-story building, no way you can become a prosumer. But with a battery inside your house, you can be a flexibility provider. Either buy electricity when the price is cheap on the grid during high solar generation hours, store it in your battery, and during peak hours when the tariff is high, you can disconnect from the grid and use the stored energy, or you can even export the stored energy back to the grid at a much higher price. Come to the next one, Bala. We have published a white paper in 2020 about district cooling systems. These are large chiller plants which make chilled water at 4 degrees centigrade, which are circulated to different buildings through insulated pipes, and air handling system of each building. Each building, instead of having a centralized air conditioning system, they will have only air handling system. So the total electricity connection in each building will come to 1/3 actually. And the total in a campus, if you take it where there's a district cooling system, total electricity consumption will be less than half of it. So, and DCS are built with insulated tank for storing chilled water at 4 degrees centigrade. So this is a thermal energy storage which can give load and load relief to the distribution grid. In the afternoon, high solar generation hours, when you have surplus power on the grid, you can generate more and more of chilled water, store it in the thermal storage or insulated tank. And even in peak hours, the chiller plant can be shut off and the chilled water can still be pumped to different buildings to keep them cool. And DCS, we can give cooling as a service against a monthly fee like electricity or gas or water. And with this, we should be able to also give to economically weaker section of the society at a subsidized rate. DCS can be given. So in 2020, when we published the white paper, there were only one DCS plant functional in Gujarat, in Gift City. Today, there are over 100 projects with almost 2 dozen projects which are already commissioned. So this and also Bureau of Energy Efficiency put DCS in the central theme of our India Cooling Action Plan, and also issued a guidelines in 2023, technical guidelines for DCS, which is a great piece of work which they have done. Come to the next slide. Yeah, here we are talking about electric cooking. We always talk about the air quality, outdoor air quality, but poor homes where cooking is done with firewood and charcoal, throughout the year, their in-home air quality is very high. It can be up to PM 2.500 inside the home. Millions of people die of prematurely of diseases caused by in-home air pollution. To achieve net zero emission, to achieve net zero in the country, emission from the kitchen should be stopped. And here again, we had a white paper in 2020, and many programs have been launched on it. In our annual event, we've been conducting separate sessions. It has again taken off, and this year April we distributed some induction electric cook stoves during in a Rajkot city where there are too much of solar, and they have also given some rebate for cooking during 12 o'clock to 12 noon to 4 p.m. So about 30 households have been given induction cooktops. So we are still studying the impact of that. So next. Yeah, stop building new coal plants and go nuclear. There is in the last 2 5-year plans in India, we stopped considering solar plants, but in 2023 there was a extended monsoon. As a result of it, there wasn't enough coal, and there was some power shortages in the later years, in the autumn months. So there are many new coal plants are being considered. in 2024 and in 2025. How many will be built, we don't know. The cost of today, the BESS, solar plus BESS, capex plus opex is cheaper than just the opex of a new coal plant. So it's going to be very expensive for having more and more coal plant is going to be very expensive for the power system. And also India announced a solar mission recently, early this year, with a target of 100 gigawatt of nuclear by 2047. As we speak, there are only 8 gigawatt of solar nuclear in India. So 5 indigenously developed SMRs by 2033. So the recent developments in small modular reactor as well as pebble bed reactors, which is a technology developed 50 years ago, but it was never commercially rolled out. These are attracting interest, particularly the data center people are contracting with the nuclear plants. But something which happened 2 weeks ago is that data centers are moving to orbit, to space, where cooling is not a challenge. Solar energy is 24/7. We've been scratching our head how gigawatt scale data center will be powered. But that was a discussion for last 2 years. But now with one data center, a experimental one already sent to orbit, and more companies have pledged that they will be building data center in space, where we don't know where it is going. But anyway, there's a rebirth of SMR and pebble bed reactors, which is a good thing which is happening. Coming to the next slide. New policies, regulations, and innovative tariffs are required. So TOU tariff framework we prepared for a Gujarat. Did a detailed study in 2020. Then we did a successful pilot with 50 voluntary customers who joined us with a total 22 megawatt load in Lucknow city. We ran that pilot from September 22 to August 23. That report is also available. Here we have seen that people can actually save money. If you give it, India operates power system as 92 different, 96 different blocks, 15-minute block. The midnight we send the next day's what rebate and what surcharge will be applied in each of these 96 blocks. We have sent that in the midnight, and people follow that. Some of the people were closely following, and they had millions of rupees saving in the bill which we submit, which is a shadow bill, and the actual bill given by the utility. This was a very interesting project. The report can be downloaded and seen from our ISGF website. And we are saying that new tariff categories for events. There are marriages, conferences. Every time a new event happens, the hotel or a convention center doesn't have enough of power supply, because they have, if you take a 100 kilowatt or 200 kilowatt connection, they have to pay capacity charges every month. So they don't take it. Whenever there is an event or a wedding or something takes place, they will encourage them to hire DG set for that, which is very, very bad. In peak wedding seasons in Delhi alone, there will be 20,000 weddings, 30,000 weddings. So there will be hundreds of megawatts of DG set which will be running on those days. So this should be banned, and we have been asking that there should be a new tariff category for events, which will be only energy charges. Even if it is 4 times, 5 times, doesn't matter. People will be happy to do that. So come to the next slide. The peer-to-peer trading of solar energy, which I briefly mentioned, we have conducted ISGF. When I say we, means India Smart Grid Forum, conducted 3 pilot projects in 3 different states. And today there are regulations in 4 states. This is something which we have done over the last 5 years. And now we move to the next level, which is a digital energy grid on unified energy interface architecture in Uttar Pradesh Power Corporation in Lucknow, which is currently live. And we went live from July 15th. We are with limited participants. We are testing it. We have a detailed slide which I'll show you the architecture, how it is. It's a birth of actually energy internet, and this will be commercially declared and launched by the UP government very soon. In the near future, as I say, smart appliances will be able to buy cheapest and cleanest electricity on UAE platforms and run its needs. That is the picture on the radar, which you will see in 10 years down the line. Come to the next slide. Yeah, microgrids. Everybody knows about microgrids. We are talking about smart microgrids which are connected to the grid, which can island from the grid. All large buildings, campuses with rooftop solar, with battery energy storage systems, and also electric vehicles with V2G capabilities. They all can be a smart microgrid which can uh, interact with the grid, buy electricity when it is cheaper on the grid, and sell it back to the grid during peak hours, or at least island and run its essential needs during peak hours, is a thing which is gaining momentum around the globe. Next slide. Yeah, digitalization of utilities and new grid architecture. So the current design of the grid is one-way flow of electricity. That's a fundamental philosophy on which transmission and distribution grids are designed, which you need to change. The, the we experiencing two-way flow of electricity on the distribution grid, and this need to redo it. There are a lot of work done by different think tanks around the world, but we expect those things to mature in the coming days. Next slide. This is the last slide on the decarbonization side. There are a lot of waste in packaging, in everything. So China is the only country, again, here they have done this waste to energy plant very, very successfully. There are more than 1100 towns in China where they had mandated waste to energy plant. They have made the standardized the modular design, which is a 12 megawatt waste to energy plant, and into two, say 24 megawatt, they build in one side of the city, another side of the city they build another 24 megawatt, and all the waste of the town is supplied by the municipality to the WTE plant, and they buy the electricity from there at 50% more price than the grid power and blend it, because this electricity from the WTE plant is very small percentage of the total electricity consumption there. So we should mandate waste minimization and also waste to energy plant in all the towns, municipalities, everywhere. Next, we'll move to digitalization. What is digitalization? Why it is so important? Digital utilities can optimize asset operations, granular estimation of demand to avoid excess generation capacity, visibility of power flows in real time to avoid overloading and excess capacities, defer costly system upgrade through efficient management of existing resources, engaging customers through digital platforms for innovative programs. So digital utilities can increase power system flexibility and help renewable integration. Come to the next slide. So digitalization means using digital technologies for fundamentally change how we do develop and operate the electricity network. Digitization is the process of collecting information or digital data. So these two are two activities. You have to have digital data to apply that for digitalization solutions. And the key objective is to have single source of truth in one organization or one utility. So everybody will have one number. How many employees are there in a utility? Every department should say we have X number of people. How many distribution transformers are there? Everybody should have one number, which is not the case today. Every department has a different number today in utilities which are not digitalized. The digitalization strategy should be aligned to the business strategy, innovation strategy, digital strategy, and IT strategy. And always the business strategy as a foundation to develop solutions meeting the changing business and customer needs. That is the forward-looking radar or forward radar. So the roadmap for digitalization: data visibility, infrastructure and asset visibility, IT, OT integration and operation optimization, open markets, agile regulations, and smart metering is the key first step in digitalization journey for utilities. Next, Bala. The IT system to be rationalized and modernized. Main thing in digitalization is communication, modern, robust, and secure telecommunication systems. The radio infrastructure need to be scalable for future network growth and data demand. Ensure solutions meet the needs of today, tomorrow, and beyond. These are a couple of key things in infrastructure as a platform, platform as a service, and so sorry, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. These are the fundamental drivers of digitalization today. Next. Yeah, the challenges are basically awareness. The whole organization, end to end, everybody should be aligned to the digitalization roadmap. Maybe we will be talking about this a little more. The UK Power Network had done one of the best digitalization roadmap and digitalization. So in the next panel, perhaps he will throw a light on this. Need for a smart grid roadmap for digital utility transformation, policy and regulatory support, skilled workforce, training of the people, and retaining the trained people is a bigger challenge, though somebody who has been trained will be poached by the industry. So that is another big challenge for the utilities. And customer engagement. Customers need to be trained and they should be participating in all these programs so that they take advantage of this. Next. Yeah, some of the technology challenges are whether you go for homegrown society systems or proprietary systems or go for a commercially off-the-shelf solution for which skill set is available in the market. You can hire experts from the market for COTS systems. So bigger challenge is that pain point is that retire or retain the legacy systems and how to integrate the legacy systems, what IT architecture and what communication systems on data center or cloud services or hybrid models. All these are many issues in the digitalization. Next slide. Decentralization. So we'll talk about this briefly. So electric grids are undergoing profound changes. Earlier it was generation, transmission, distribution. Each of these were separate silos. But today with more and more generation resources connected to the low voltage end of the grid is becoming an integrated grid, and consumers becoming prosumers. As I said, they are becoming flexumers. All kind of the one-way flow of electricity is now experiencing bidirectional flow. The transmission to be built or storage to be built is a real debate in many places, particularly in places where value right of way is a major challenge. So the tariff has changed from volumetric tariff to transactive tariffs, and loads have changed. From in the past, incandescent lamps and electric motors could accommodate frequency and voltage excursions. Today, your digital appliances require constant voltage and frequency. So, but majority of the generation sources have become intermittent, but the loads require more better power quality. The merit order dispatch is moving towards a energy efficient, environmentally responsible dispatch, and PV has become already a grid parity long back. And large fleet of EVs can be aggregated as virtual power plants. So this is a major changes which are happening. Come to the next one. So here we talk about what are all the operational technologies and the IT technologies, the combination of which is a smart grid. All of you know about it, heard it enough. So come to the next slide. Yeah, moving forward, today's distribution grid, moving to the digital grid, smart grid, two-way power flow, distributed generation, peer-to-peer, and UEI, visibility, self-monitoring, and demand response, distributed, all changes which is moving to the future. Next slide. Yeah, changes along the value chain. So it used to be, the value chain used to be tightly coupled and asset based, is moving to loosely coupled and services based. All these green blocks are the new entrants which were not in the traditional power system in the past. Microgrid operator, retail market operator, DSO, renewable energy buyers association, aggregator, all these are community choice aggregator. These are all new entities in the power value chain. Come to the next slide. Disintermediation, that's the fourth one, with again very few slides here. Traditional utility model, power producers sell to utility, utility sell to consumers. In the disintermediation, producers directly sell to consumer, no intermediaries. Utilities are bypassed. Emerging models are P2P transactions and virtual power plants, and major impact to utilities is two-way power flow and reduced revenue from energy or kilowatt hour sales. Next. So as I said, we had done 3 pilot projects in 2020 to 2022. And next slide, there are 3, in fact, 4 states issued regulations. This is blockchain-based peer-to-peer transaction of solar rooftop energy. Is UP was the first one which issued regulations in 2023, and Delhi issued in 2024, and also Karnataka issued in 2024. Kerala issued these regulations early this month, on 6th of November. So these kind of regulations are there only in India. There is no other country. There are 24 countries or 36 countries have done peer-to-peer transaction of rooftop solar energy on blockchain platforms. Several pilots have been done, but there are no regulation. As a result, this has not been scaled up anywhere. Now, next. Yeah, so what I mentioned briefly about the UEI architecture, Unified Energy Interface. Many of you would have heard of UPI, Unified Payment Interface, which are billions of transactions happening every month. People don't use card or anything. Your phone is good enough to make payment for anything. Similar to that, we are working with a NGO, not for profit organization called FIDE.org, and we are building this. They helped us build this UI architecture based on which a P2P transaction project is done in Lucknow. Next slide. This is all on a backend protocol. So here you will see there are 14 software platforms we have integrated. So on the network side, the utility systems are connected to a blockchain, which is a trust layer, data trust layer, where the meter reading comes and rests there. And above that, there are BPP, which we are written is the app for the sellers, and the BAP is the mobile app for the buyers. So buyers and sellers declare tomorrow how much energy they want to sell. A prosumer may say that I have 10 units to sell tomorrow for 5 rupees or 6 rupees, and the buyer says that I will buy 10 units at 4 rupees or 5 rupees, and by 5 o'clock today, the platform execute the smart contract for tomorrow, and tomorrow's meter data come to us by day after tomorrow by 12 o'clock, and the platform automatically settle the payment to each of the participants, including a wheeling charge for the utility and a platform service provider's fee, which are prescribed in the regulations. And this is something which is being done for the first time in the world, and we're using a backend communication protocol for this UA architecture. This project will be widely announced and launched officially very soon. Now we have limited participants we are testing, because 14 different software platform integration was not easy. It has taken over a year, and this is a very interesting pilot. It's considered to be the birth of energy internet in the world. Decreasing consumption. This is another very interesting phenomena experiencing in different geographies. So consumers became customer when there was retail competition, and some of the customers became prosumers when solar rooftop became popular and or affordable. And in Europe last decade, there was some of the environmental activists said that we are concerned about electricity production and consumption. We are connected to the grid, but we will not use much of electricity. If at all we draw sometime, we will give it back. That's a category called non-consumer, but that didn't go much. Well, there were many books and papers on non-consumers, but today we don't find many of them. But the latest, as I said, is flex-consumer, those who can give flexibility services. So, but with this decreasing consumption, what is happening is potential business or revenue loss for the utilities. Cost of grid defection has become constantly declining for the last 5 years because of the cost of battery storage, the cost of solar panels. So you can be, and the EVs, electric vehicle batteries have become reliable, and you can, with a good EV battery and solar panels, you can be out of the grid for a long period of time. So prosumers with the BESS, customers with EVs and new generation batteries, longer than the life of EVs, microgrid, and then there are carbon-free energy communities and solarization of irrigation pump set. These are all which are happening at fast pace, which is going to have major impact, revenue impact for the utilities. The people who are installing solar panels and battery energy storage system are the rich customers. I mean, those who pay their bill regularly. So if they all defect from the grid, or they find better ways to manage their energy consumption, the traditional utilities will be left with only non-paying customers. That's a major difficulty. So, but there are certain things which can be done by utilities to increase their revenue, which are mentioned in our white paper of 2021, I guess. Come to the next slide. So these are some of the new services and revenue opportunities from unlocking existing infrastructure and services, selling rooftop PV. The utilities themselves can sell the rooftop PV. They can sell energy efficient appliances, which they are doing in some places. They can sell electric cooking appliances. They can sell electric vehicle chargers. They can sell battery energy storage and other applications. They can they can share their communication bandwidth. There are several other things they can do which can increase their unlocking the value of the lamp poles. The street lamp pole itself is a major, and transmission towers can also give them revenue by installing EV charging points there, installation of 4G, 5G antennas, installation of security cameras, advertisements, and cooling as a service, as I mentioned, in the district cooling systems. Next slide, Bala. From the digital assets, the new revenue opportunities enabled by digitalization of power sector, customer data, billing and collection systems, AMA data, and energy consumption profile, GIS map, SCADA, outage management system data, call centers and call data archives. These are all goldmine for various industry forums, and this can be with appropriate data governance framework and data management policies, utilities can find new revenue streams from all this, which will compensate more than adequately for the decreasing consumption in some geographies. Come to the next one. We'll talk about some more examples, some of the projects which you have done, which some of them I already explained. I'll take 5 minutes to do that. In the RE integration, we have done much better than many developed countries. This is because of the visionary initiatives taken by India. We came out with the green corridors, which is a dedicated EHV transmission systems which are connecting solar farms and wind farms with the main transmission grid. And this was built with 40% viability gap funding from Government of India. So the first phase of this is completed, about 18,000 kilometers or something is completed. So as a result, we have much less curtailment of RE, and we also built renewable energy management centers, or this management, not monitoring, renewable energy management REMCs. There are 13 of them at a national level. We have a national level REMC. These have sophisticated tools for weather forecasting, and also these are integrated with the automation systems at national level, at regional level, and at some of the state level. There are 13 or 14 of them are already functioning. What they do, day -2 forecast. Today is Thursday. What would be the forecast, RE forecast for Saturday? We will give it today, and tomorrow we will fine tune that with respect to better weather data, and thereafter we will fine tune it during the day on Saturday through intraday mitigation measures. So some of the other things which you have done currently going on is from the vanilla RE projects, we have moved to round the clock RE plants, which are built with storage, and also FDRE projects, fixed dispatchable renewable energy project, that also built with energy storage, and several smart grid things, solutions have been implemented in transmission and distribution grid. Currently, we are doing 250 million smart meters on a services model. So utilities are not paying any money to the agency who are installing smart meters. They are on a 10-year contract. They are paid X rupee per meter per month. Average, these are $1 per meter per month. And out of 250 million, about 150 million are already awarded, contracts awarded, about 55 million already installed. This is going at very fast pace. And a lot of other things which you have done. I have some slides on the rest of the things we'll show you. Come to the next one, Bala. We have made a V2G technology, which I mentioned briefly. So for Tata Nexon electric vehicles, in a slide, we have retrofitted with the technology help from University of Delaware, and these 4 vehicles were commissioned in March 2025, and these are functional. So this is AC V2G, first of its kind of demonstration of AC V2G in South Asia, and this has been hugely successful. And Tata Motors, whose vehicle we have retrofitted, they are now looking at launching V2G variant EVs in the coming years, and for which we are trying to develop an ecosystem of bidirectional charger manufacturers and bidirectional power module manufacturers. Next. Yeah, and also very interestingly, we have demonstrated EV charging can be done with green electricity. A school in West Delhi, 100 kilowatt of solar panel, we connected to a blockchain platform through a smart meter. And we also, one of the EV charging app we have modified. When you open the charging app, you get an option whether to charge with grid power or charge with green power. So if you opt for green power, the app will trigger a signal to the blockchain platform, and blockchain platform at the end of the charging session, suppose the 10 units of electricity put in the EV, they'll see that by that point in time, 10 units that day, the solar plant is injected into the grid, in which case the blockchain platform will mint a crypto token as a certificate of origin. This again, we are requesting, the solution is ready for scaling up nationally, and we are requesting CPOs and other EV charging people to come and take it. And next slide. Yeah, electrifying agriculture. We talked about, Mr. Khanna in the beginning, I talked about solarization of irrigation pump set, which have been done in millions in India. But next is tractor and other agricultural equipment. We have done a study in Maharashtra, and based on our study report, this was completed only in June. In July, the Maharashtra state government offered 100,000 rupees rebate for electric tractors for the first 1,000 electric tractors. So this is going to be in a big way in the coming years. So we need to, if any country has to become net zero, emission from the farm sector also need to be tackled. Next one. Next slide. Yeah, we made a DER registry. It's a national rooftop registry last year. And the idea was that last year when we started this project, there were about 1.5 million solar rooftops, which were having a capacity of about 1.4, 1.5 gigawatt. 12 to 14 gigawatt of capacity, which was generating 40 to 50 gigawatt hour every day. There was no visibility for that. Yeah, another 2 minutes, we'll close this. So there was no visibility for grid operators where these are connected to the grid. So we prepared the registry according to the grid architecture, a rooftop on a building, which distribution pole, and that pole is coming from, connected to which distribution transformer, that come from a feeder from which substation. Next slide. So according to that architecture we have done, and this is massively scalable to billions of entries, but we could, with our limited resources, we could enter data of about 250,000 rooftops last year from 2 distribution companies, and this registry is being taken over by Government of India. Central Electricity Authority is going to manage this, and they will populate and put in all the, and this will also be integrated with other PM Suryagar registry and other government portals where online data comes and it gets automatically integrated through APIs. And another interesting job which you have done is a handbook on AI use cases. So there are power generation, transmission, distribution, system operation, everything. The AI, ML, virtual reality, augmented reality, and robotics use cases. There are 174 use cases from 35 countries we have compiled, of which about 45 use cases are from India. Actually, we never knew that there was so much of work done by Indian utilities also. So these are in the main report. We have covered 47, 37 are in Appendix A, and then web links given for 90. This book is about 350-page book, which is available, can be downloaded, which we released at our distribution utility meet on 4th of November in Mumbai. Next. Oh, this is the same registry architecture. Next one. Yeah, these are all the different predictive maintenance, renewable and forecasting, etc., use cases. Come to the next one. I think we are done with. Yeah, the coming era, you will see that several technologies, very front-end technologies are getting integrated, and it's going to lead to a golden era of abundance in everything and longevity. People are going to live for several centuries. A trillion agents we are talking about in 10 years, a billion humanoid robots in 10 years, and AI level personal companions. AGI means digital super intelligence or artificial general intelligence. So a polymaths in each one's pocket is going to be there or will be walking around with you. 25 years ago, if I had told, or anyone would have told that all of you will have a cell phone in your pocket, nobody would have believed 30 years ago. But today, that's the truth. Same way, each one of you in another 10 to 20 years going to walk around with humanoid assistants who are actual AGI level personal companions. So personal AGI tutor platforms and mixed reality, universities and schools are going to be obsolete maybe in 10 to 15 or 20 years. So no point in paying hundreds of thousands of dollars per year for university education. That will have no use. In quantum computers and quantum AI, scalable, air-corrected quantum computers will be available by 2030s. Brain-computer interface with thought-based interactions are going to happen in just 3 to 5 years. Transportation as a service, I have already told. But the most important thing is happening in food. There will be abundance of food through closed-loop vertical farming, precision fermentation, bioreactor, and AI-optimized agroforest. This AGRO, agroforest, sorry. And this all will lead to abundance, and there will be universal basic income, universal access to basic AI, and almost all diseases will be eliminated. Lifespan will extend to several centuries. Maybe people of my vintage might go, but many of the young people who are listening to me, you can choose when you want to die. It's going to be that way. Longevity as a service against a monthly fee. You can continue to live by paying some small, like cloud services which you are paying today. And we are, as I mentioned earlier about the data center, some data centers are already going to orbits. So we are moving towards a type 1 civilization where orbital habitats and hotels are going to be a reality in 10 to 15 years now. So I stop here. Thank you very much and for listening to me patiently.
Thank you so much for this detailed presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. In case there are any questions for Mr. Reggie, please put them in the chat box.
Yeah, put the questions in the chat box, and if it will answer. Some of them I will answer in the chat box itself. Thank you.
Right. Now we'll move further with a panel discussion on decarbonization and digitalization. This session will be moderated by Mr. Abel Tella.
Thank you so much. We have the primary speaker because of time. And please, Ashima, introduce the next speaker.
I will quickly introduce our
Andres.
speakers. Speakers for this session are Mr. Andres Carvalho. He's the founder and CEO of CMG Consulting, a digital infrastructure consulting and development company. Welcome, Andres. Next, we have Mr. Luciano Martini. Mr. Martini is the director of the Generation Technologies and Materials Department at RSC in Italy. Welcome, Luciano. We have Dr. Avinash Ethel. Dr. Ethel is a strategic program director at Energy Networks Association. Welcome, Mr. Avinash. The floor is yours, Mr. Abel.
Yes, now we will resume by the presentation. We'll be listening to Andres, please. Come in.
I don't see Mr. Andres in the participants.
Okay, but okay, we already catch with now.
I'll check with him. Maybe we can start with
yes,
with the next participant.
Okay, let's listen to Mr. Atel. Luciano
Thank you.
is connected. Yes, Disha. Okay.
Would you like me to kick off, Mr. Bell? So I'm sure I think Mr. Luciano also would be keen to present, but I'm happy to take your steer. Go ahead.
We are ready. We missed just Andres Carvalho.
Luciano is connected. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I can start if you like. Okay, so First of all, I would like to thank for the kind invitation. I thank Global Smart Energy Federation and the Association of the Public Power Utility of Africa. It's a pleasure to be here. I will be representing ISGAN. I have the honor to be the chair of ISGAN since several years. And I think as ISGAN, we have 27 members around the world covering 5 continents. Unfortunately, we have only one member from Africa, is South Africa, represented by Sanedi, that is the South African National Energy Development Institute. Maybe we could have more members in future. The goal of ISGAN is really to promote and to inform policymakers about innovative solutions and trends around the world about smart grids and modernization of the power sector. And the idea is really to collect experience from different countries worldwide in order to make all this information available to policymakers at the regional level, national and international level, in order for them to support the activity and the project that still need to be launched in order to find the solution that we need for the present challenge related to the clean energy transition, to net zero, to decarbonization and digitalization of our system. I have a pleasure to say that we have a collaboration agreement. We signed an MOU with GSEF this year, so we have a strong tradition and long track record of collaboration with GSEF, so I'm very glad to intervene to this event. And I also have a pleasure to meet Adele before in past events, and it was a pleasure talking about the power utility in Africa in the past. So the topic is extremely important, decarbonization, digitalization for this panel, and I can address a few aspects that I think are relevant. So what is important from the ISGAN side that we have launched what we call a lighthouse project. Lighthouse project is like a comprehensive approach that is supported by the different working group of ISGAN. Is about long-term planning for a smart distribution network. So we know that there are several uncertainty, how many PV plants will be installed, how much will be electrifying the transport sector, for example. So we need to make a very advanced planning involving all the needed stakeholders, not only power utility, not only system operator, but also end user, the public, the local authorities. And this is important because only by involving all these stakeholders, you can make the needed planning maybe 10 years ahead of what's needed. It's important to say that when we talk about Africa, I will be also putting in my experience and my involvement with the Mission of Vision Green Power Future Vision. In fact, this initiative is also looking at Africa as an important continent where the clean energy transition is taking place. In our case, for Mission Innovation, we look to large demo and national pilots that are intending to evaluate and also demonstrate innovative solutions that will be made publicly available and then possibly replicate in different worldwide contexts in order to have an impact on the system. About decarbonization itself and talking about Africa, it's important to say that there will be a chance for Africa to maximize the solar radiation, so to use more and more PV solar panel in your area. Certainly this is the case. There was a contribution from International Solar Alliance that was stressing the low cost of PV and the reliability of PV modules. So in this case, yes, you can take advantage of a large experience that we gain in different parts of the world, in different countries, about installing PV, not only rooftop PV, but also utility scale PV plants. In this case, yes, the low cost and the easy and the passive running of this system, so low maintenance, only some cleaning from time to time, is certainly a solution. But then when we talk about installing more and more PV, you are facing some issue related to reliability and resilience and stability of power system, especially when you are integrating massive amount of PV, solar PV and wind energy. So certainly what was presented by Dr. Reggie was a very comprehensive overview. Is also the need of making PV attached to battery energy storage or any other storage system in order to support the power system and not to be in danger because of intermittency of the PV generation or wind generation. I think that is the proper energy mix is really relevant for each of the country in Africa, depending on the available resources. You can have in your energy mix certainly a good balance of hydropower, PV and wind, but also bioenergy and geothermal that are dispatchable and can help the system to stay stable. So it's important that apart from decarbonizing our world by looking at the generation side, we can also use advanced solution to decarbonize our end users. So electrification of end user is a very important aspect. I give you just an example. Electrification of transport still takes time, especially in Europe, but we are advancing in trying little by little to electrify the transport sector. In Africa, we made some study that is showing that maybe electrification of two-wheelers and three-wheelers, or in general electric vehicle, is quite important. In this case, of course, you have to make a very good planning of the charging infrastructure that you need to power these two-wheeler or three-wheelers or electric vehicles. So a good planning will, of course, be different if you're talking about a rural area or a city area. Nevertheless, the good planning is also attached to the business model that you are developing in order to allow customer to select an electric vehicle instead of using a conventional internal combustion engine vehicle. So this is also part of our experience. We will be happy to share our experience in Europe and around the world from ISGAN and from GPFM in order to allow the Africa country to analyze those solutions and decide which one are more appropriate to be to be applied in your African context. It's important to say that there is not only generation and end user, but we also rely on the importance of interconnection. When I was speaking at the ISA, International Solar Alliance event at COP, I also mentioned the importance of interconnection to secure renewable energy from the country that is available to country that they are maybe using a massive amount of energy. I also mentioned one important interconnection that is involving Italy. This is a connection between Tunisia and Italy. It's called ELMED. It's a 600 megawatt DC connection, 500 kV. This is a way, for example, to secure solar energy from North Africa to Italy first and to the rest of Europe. It also will be increase the interconnection between different power systems in order to increase their stability. So it will be beneficial for both. It's important to say that there is a lot of effort in evaluating the investment that are needed in the power sector. We talk about $1 trillion around the world because as it was reported by IEA, International Energy Agency, already a couple of years ago, there are more than 80 million kilometers of new line to be made. I mean, 80 million in between line that need to be refurbished and new connection. Because if you want to secure renewables that are far away from the final load, you have to create a new grid, a new distribution network, and so on. So all these investments need support. And as I said, the PV is quite cheap, so the business case could be positive, but you need maybe the possibility in different countries to make a project that evaluate the main challenges, and then you get maybe the needed loan or other solution that are allowed all of us, and especially Africa, to afford the capex, the capital cost expenditure of the installation. But nevertheless, this is the trend. There are really already very good examples around the world. India was one of the cases, and Dr. Reggie was reporting properly all of these. So decarbonization is really important, it's fully in line, and as you know, we are on the same boat because many countries sign their commitment to become net zero by 2050, some other country by 2060, like China, or by 2070, India. So this is really a trend. And so I think it's good to have this opportunity to share best practices, results, and achievement in order for everybody being able to replicate those solutions without spending too much effort to reinventing the same solution. So decarbonization is key. I can now move it to digitalization, because digitalization is really the tool that will allow to make everything I was saying before, decarbonization, for example, just in a more efficient way. So we needed to use all digital tools and solutions in order to make integration of renewables and electrification of transport, as I said before, because in this case, we will minimize the cost of investment by using our asset at best, in the old form at full power. Why we need the digitalization? The system is evolving. In Italy, where we were facing only a couple of decades ago, only a few tenths of larger generation plants, now we have just by PV more than 2 million generation units. So you need to have a very high observability of the grid. You need really to be able to have a smart control in order to keep the system under supervision and to have a real-time monitoring and control of the system. So this is the same everywhere. I mentioned Italy, but of course this will be also the same in Italy. So digitalization with all possible solutions. You know, there is a lot of interest around the world about artificial intelligence. This could be a way for making the same things that we were making maybe 10 years ago, but in a more appropriate and also for more complex systems. So this is really one game changer, artificial intelligence. It's important to say that for digitalization, we mean everything, also new sensors or the possibility to track the environmental condition in certain position in order to make sure that we can plan which will be the generation unit of power available within 1 hour or 72 hours or more. So this will allow the control and the operation of the system in a better way. Digitalization is really something we have to push forward, will be really the cheapest solution to integrate all the renewable we have in mind, and will allow also to have empowering the final customer, knowing which is the consumption and how to reduce the consumption in certain part of the day where renewables are not available. So certainly decentralization is important. Distributed generation is one example, but this is going hand to hand with digitalization. So all the tools that allowed us to really have a clear view of a system status in real time in order to take all the important action from the system operator point of view that keep the system stable, reliable, and fully available to the final customer. I can say more, but maybe I can stop here, maybe speak in a second round or reply to some question from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luciano, for this detailed presentation. In fact, Africa Power Utility are struggling between access and transition and digitalization. For digitalization, a real leapfrogging is helping Africa Utility to move from legacy to smart system. So we talk on it. I would like to give the floor to Avinash before we go to the question. Please, Mr. Atel, have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. First of all, thank you so much for having me over. Just want to check if can everybody hear me clearly?
Yeah, we
Excellent. Do. Yeah, thanks so much for the Global Energy Federation and the Association of Power Utilities of Africa for having me over. And it's been a huge privilege to listen to all the the delegates who just been speaking. And one thing that jumps to me is the fact that the scale of all our efforts can vary depending on the geographies, but I think the challenge and opportunities are quite common across the globe. And today, my intention is to share some of our journeys that I've been part of from the UK's perspective. Given that the theme of this panel discussion is decarbonization, digitalization, my intention was to walk through some of the building blocks and the steps that we've gone through in UK in that regard. I'll quickly share my screen as a go first of all. Is everybody able to see my screen at all?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. So first, by way of introduction, the Energy Networks Association is the trade association that represents the distribution and transmission companies in the UK. So that they're essentially business monopolies, local monopolies for individual regions. So in the UK, you have 8 distribution owners in each of those regions that you see in the figure on the screen, and the transmission owners on the right side of the four. But this, as an opportunity for us, is the fact that all the key players required in the energy transition are together at the table, and that's the opportunity that we've collectively come together to optimize. So, coming straight into the theme of our decarbonization and digitalization, I suppose I want to draw a lens to, I guess, one summary slide of what Dr. Reggie has probably articulated far more eloquently than I could in one slide here. So the journey essentially has been a migration from the traditional power systems to an evolution to what we see now currently prevalent across the world. And from a UK's perspective, that evolution has been representative of new renewables coming at distribution and transmission, and down to consumer level where you have electrification, whether it's transport or heat, rooftop PVs. We heard a lot about that earlier. And again, moving from the good old meters to now what are the digital backbone of the smart meters. But that then essentially necessitated a new entity called a distribution system operator as well. And from the UK's perspective, we saw this as a set of challenges that we kind of summarized here on the slides here. First of all is, how do you optimize the existing network? And how do you coordinate between T&D? And how do you connect new customers? Because fundamentally, the decarbonization is driven by more and more low carbon technologies coming and getting connected to the network. Then if more of them are connected, we need to find ways to connect them sooner and essentially create some sort of structure as a business case or an opportunity for that particular technology to be more prevalent in the current existing networks. So in order to do that, one of the things that we did was to look up or set up something called the flexibility market. You've heard of it in different contexts. From a GB perspective, I put it in one slide to see that this is a landscape that you would see as any conversation relating to flexibility in the UK would go about. On the left, you see what I said, explicit market. On the right, you see something called implicit market. This distinction is fairly important because depending on who we speak to, whether it's geography or whether it's different market segment, each of the type of the flexibility market had different nuances and different execution and different target audience to a certain extent. So quite often in areas or geographies or countries where people are looking to set up flexibility market, it becomes very crucial and crucially important to identify which market are we speaking about and build those individual building blocks that are required to prop up those markets. So on the left, you see the explicit one I mentioned earlier is where there is a requirement by the utility, and that is then contracted with an asset, whether it's solar or whether it's a battery fleet or whatever the asset is. There's an explicit contract that is articulating the requirement, and that is then dispatched based on when and where required. The implicit is more direction where there's an incentive. There is no a legal requirement for the asset to behave or change their behavior. However, if they do, they stand to gain. And that perhaps is the key distinction between explicit and implicit market. From a UK perspective, I have had the privilege of leading a program called Open Networks, which has been developing the block in the middle. That's called local markets, which is fundamentally a congestion management that is deployed and delivered through what we call in the DNOs, what we call in the UK DNOs or distribution network operation, which would be analogous to the discom or distribution companies across geographies. So these markets are predominantly run by the distribution companies to ensure that their requirement of maintaining and optimizing the use of their assets are delivered. And that vision is something that we set out, I guess, way back when, a decade or so ago. And in my next few slides, my intention was to walk you through the journey a little bit. And as you will see that this is a journey of perhaps 8 to 10 years. So in the 15 minutes I have, I think it's probably going to be a struggle to capture all the nuances of this journey. But on a high macro level, what you could see in this journey, if you break it down to key milestones, is the fact that the first 2 years was about the ideation and setting the vision. It is important for us as a collective organizations to ensure that the point of destination we are working towards is something that's understood so that all the efforts can be joined up and go towards the common point. The next point was inception and formalization. Because if you're moving from point A to point B, there are multiple routes. And as we heard today from Luciano earlier and Dr. Rigi as well. So each country has different sets of opportunities and different trajectories to get there. From our perspective, we chose a way to show that establish a clear context of business case, why this transition is needed, what's the value in it for the assets, for the companies, for the consumer. That then gets a buy-in from both the government, the regulator, and all the companies in the entire value chain of energy. And then we go on to developing the market principles and the commitment to actually invest in this. The next few years was very techy. We developed all the technical specification, the processes, and then essentially established into business as usual. And the last two stages being we look to promote and improve the liquidation of the market. Where we are now, the UK government has taken a decision to set up a new regulated entity to oversee this entire activity. So formally, the program that I was leading, the Open Networks, has now concluded or is concluding end of this month, and that then essentially will be transferred to an entity called the market facilitator. Just as a scale and the evolution of this market, which also should give a good taste of the opportunity out there. While we started, this what you see on the screen is a chart that maps out the contracted and the tendered volumes of flexibility. This is limited to the local flex alone, which is typically deployed by the distribution companies I mentioned earlier. So what you would see is from year 1, 2, and 3, the total amount of flexibility that was tendered was as high as 2 gigawatts, and we managed to contract up to 1 gigawatt. But as we went forward and developed those frameworks and put in effort to ensure that the enablers, that digitalization, those tools and all the avenues that we set out there are taking hold, we can see a substantial jump in the market. Where we are now is staggering. And I think, again, reflecting on some Dr. Vijay's point, this has beaten a lot of our projections as well. So this year we've counted up to 9 gigawatts of contracted flexibility with over 30 gigawatts of tendered. By which I mean, even though as a nation we are business as usual with all the network companies going and deploying this flexibility, it still remains undersubscribed. And there is so much opportunities for low carbon technologies to tap into this. And the reason this is important is because this as a flexibility is an opportunity for low carbon technologies to monetize their assets. Usually, any of these assets are fundamentally started as an investment or a business case. And this flexibility as a market allows for an additional revenue stream for them to consider to then promote and accelerate the connections of low carbon technology onto the network. And that's what you see here. And on the right, you see is the technology spread. So of the 9 gigawatts that's tendered, over 80% came from low carbon technology. So while there is an open debate on how effective are these things of flexibility as a technology, it is clear that if 9 gigawatts is something we're able to get from low carbon technology, and that allows us to optimally use the network, it's an opportunity that everybody should look to grab. So again, in the interest of time, and I know our panel was meant to end at 2 o'clock, so I'm going to quickly wrap up that one of the key findings that I think is of value both from to share to the delegates on call here and for somebody looking to share something or develop something similar is it's important to understand that there are different types of flexibility. Each of them have their unique business case, and we need to understand which of them we are looking to develop and how those individual markets interact. And the fact that if countries like Africa, the continents like Africa are considering this, the opportunity for them to ensure that all the interrelations and the coordination between markets can be set up from the get-go, rather than looking at it retrospectively and trying to work over and above an existing framework that probably get in the way. The next one is another nuance that quite often is lost in conversation is that flexibility is an optimization tool and not a tool to defer reinforcement. So quite often, depending on the sales pitch, I've heard a lot of people saying flexibility can essentially let go of the reinforcement requirements. That is not true, and that is something that everybody needs to understand. But it doesn't in itself devalue the potent of flexibility as a concept. And the perhaps last but not least, I think the important bit to know is that there is no market without market participants. So conversations like this, where we are socializing with the wider audience and across the value chain of the entire energy system, is important, because without all the actors coming in to the foreground and being ready at the right time, the market will not be at a point where this will be a price competitive market and you will not get the best outcome possible. So we have managed to capture this 8 years of our journey in an open access book. So hopefully if you are on your screen and you have a phone, you can use the QR code to download it. And our ambition has always been that we've gone away and set up the world's first local flex market at this scale. So there are a lot of things we've done right, and certainly a lot more things we've done wrong. And all of them are captured here so that people can learn from our achievements and from our mistakes. And that's probably where I'll leave this conversation for now and hand back to the colleagues to perhaps explore some questions or of need be, get back to some of the points that you want to elaborate on. Thank you.
Thank you, Avinash, for this insightful presentation. For our participant, other language, French and so on, like I put in the chat box, nous allons traduire toutes les présentations en français, portugais et partagé. So we just have some challenges on the simultaneous translation, but we'll be sure that we have all the presentation in the both language to share our distinguished participant. Do I see any question in the box?
I am
Shima,
mindful, Mr. Abel, that I have gone through those slides very quickly. I was trying to keep the interest of time and had to go through a lot of content. So I'm happy to have an offline conversation if needed, because I'm very keen that the efforts is something that people are able to use, because knowledge is only as good as how far it can reach. So I'm more than happy to have a conversation and share some of the learnings. But I want to apologize for the quick whiz through, because 8 years in 15 minutes is a challenge I usually fail in. So.
Like I discussed with Reggie, in fact, every D is a full webinar. So we'll continue.
Absolutely.
Every D is a full webinar.
I agree.
So
Fully
yes,
agree.
that is the real idea to put, so that we're not just stopping in this one. And in our next board meeting, GSEF board meeting, we discuss how to we spread more knowledge around those topics. Who will accompany us for the coming 20 to 30 years, because like Luciano and everybody said, people commitment is 2060, 2070. But where do we get to that point? How do we get to that point? And then the discussion will be going on. So we'll never can exhaust this, and every country have its way to leapfrog. But what is to be noticed is globally, now the pathway is hard globally. So I think that we are coming to a common view in every on the Ds. So even in our proceeding within APUA, we already are thinking on our topic to be developed with our partner next year in the coming years. Even for our next Congress, we already set the topic around all this AI, EOT, and digitalization, and how AI now is coming into operation to make more with the few we have within utility in terms of availability of power. So do they have any question? Because we are coming to our time for this first panel. Ashima?
Yeah, Abel Andres is also one of the speaker, but I believe he hasn't joined in yet. So maybe we can ask him to join in the second session. And at
Okay, yes,
present, I
because of
don't
time.
see any
Because
questions. Yeah, I
okay.
don't see any questions right now.
I have
Mr.
a comment
Luciano has to
myself.
say something.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a very simple comment. First of all, I fully agree with what Abel was saying, that each country has to develop its own strategy and roadmap to reach us to a certain point. And it's important to say that we need to get to 2030 with certain advancement in order to really reach the full net zero by 2050. So we have to make good progress in this decade in order to have an impact on the future. And then a second is like a personal message from my side. I want to say that I had the pleasure also to meet Avinash in Korea, because I was honored to award the ENA as a winner of ISGAN Award of Excellence. So this was really an important project that was developed by ENA in the field of excellence in solution for enhanced grid operation. So I think we are a small community. It would be nice to keep in touch and work together. As GPFM Emission Innovation, also ENA is one of our members. together. And we are really available to organize webinar, workshop, and maybe also joint calls, a joint project in case, because we really want to close the loop and work together as much as we can. We can contribute in kind to any activity that you think is relevant. So thank you very much for moderating this session.
Thank you. And also, it's my first time to really deal with ENA. So I'm very glad that I can catch up with Avinash, that we keep in touch to have more, knowledge to spread among our members. So with this, I would like to conclude on this panel. Like I said, we could not, we cannot in a few minutes after this detailed presentation from yes, KPLC, Crefas, happy to see you connected. So we will spread this all your presentation in different language among our members to be prepared to the next step. How do we take advantage of engaging with different continents to make our leapfrogging be beneficial for African countries? That is the main issue that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to take advantage that what have been already achieved to go forward and together. So for this, I would like to stop the panel on this note and thank my distinguished panelists. If we have Andres later, we'll receive him in the second,
Yes.
and I'm sure that
We'll request him to come in this session too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hand over to. Thank you so much.
Follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Abel, for moderating this session so well. And thank you, everyone, for sharing your valuable insights on this session. We will now begin with session 2, which is decentralization and disintermediation. And Mr. Ravi Sitapati will be moderating this session. Mr. Ravi Sitapati serves as the executive chairman of Biceres, Canada, and sits as a corporate director on the board of Power Transmission and Distribution Division of Larsen & Toubro, India. Welcome, sir. Mr. Ravi Sitapati will also be one of the panelists in this session.
Thank you. Would you like to introduce the two speakers? Yeah, please.
Yes, I'll quickly introduce that, sir. We have Mr. Mark McGragan. Mark is a fellow at Electric Power Research Institute, and he provides technical and strategic input and guidance across the organization and for the electric utility industry around the world, working from the EPRI office in Dublin, Ireland. Welcome, Mark. Next speaker for this session is Mr. Nick Singh. Nick Singh is heading the COE for Smart Grids, ESCOM, as a specialist in smart grids and control systems. He has more than 27 years of experience specializing in smart grids and control systems. Welcome, Nick.
So thank you.
Sir,
thank
the
you
floor
very
is
much.
yours.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this panel will be very interesting. I have two colleagues who are very well versed in this subject matter, worked with them in several capacities in the past with the EPRI side when Mark used to lead our T&D Council, and then with the C27 of Seagray on the hybrid microgrids where Nick used to participate. And now I continue to engage with them through the Global Smart Energy Federation. So two distinguished speakers. The way I think this session I would like to conduct is to have each of them present. They both have got a slide deck. And then I'll be the last speaker if needed. Chances are I will not be needed because both of them are very eloquent in what they say. And then if there is any, and otherwise we'll then open it up for discussions and Q&A. So Mark, why don't you go first?
All right, that sounds good. I'll go ahead and share my slides here and see if we can go this way. And full screen. How's that? Okay. In this panel, we're covering the last two Ds, decentralization and disintermediation. I think it's very interesting, and presentations that we've had so far from Reggie and the previous panel talking about flexibility in general and the role of the DSO have been great for setting this up. But I wanted to focus on kind of the microgrids and the role of the power system development in Africa and other developing countries, and the role of microgrids in that development, and give a little background on work that's been done at EPRI and elsewhere, realizing that does set the stage for both of these Ds, decentralization and disintermediation. But probably more importantly, it's a way of building the power system without the huge investment in the distribution system to get to remote areas that we can take advantage of. And I think it's an important time because the topic of microgrids and resilience is more important than ever right now with climate change and distribution companies throughout the world, whether developing or not, making investments in resilience where microgrids can be part of that. So I just thought I would take a look at some of the work that's being done in that space to kind of set the stage. Just for those of you that are not familiar, EPRI is a nonprofit research organization that works with utilities around the world, as Ravi described. I won't get into that detail, but looking at the U.S. example, the role of microgrids and investment in microgrids has been gaining traction and expanding for a number of years, with support at the state level in many states, as well as the Department of Energy. I'd say maybe a little bit less support right now with the present administration, but the states are still very strong in this space. And now the utilities are seeing microgrids as a legitimate resilience investment anyway, even without a lot of extra support. So the motivation to have the option for building resilience at the local level in response to wildfires, large hurricanes, and other storms that are results in tremendous financial impacts to the region. Here in Ireland, we had a storm in January, that Storm Eowyn, that resulted in 1/3 of all the customers being out of power for up to 3 weeks. And this has created a lot of interest in Ireland on the possibility or the need really to have local resilience centers in almost every community that can provide a location where people can get power and heat and food if their power's out. So this has been a topic of great discussion. I pulled some of the benefits that are listed in this Colorado microgrid roadmap. This is an excellent document just talking about why in Colorado they've put in supports for developing community level microgrids, and starting out with being an option to large investments for resilience at the distribution infrastructure level, making local investments instead for resilience. And once you've made those investments, that microgrid becomes a flexibility resource, which ties into the presentation that Avi and Luciano gave as well. You connect that microgrid to the rest of the network 99% of the time if it's part of a connected network, and can provide a lot of flexibility benefits. Also, as we look at Ukraine and other areas, we have physical security issues, we have cybersecurity issues, and the more distributed we make the system with the ability to be resilient, the more we're going to be able to survive severe impacts like that. The microgrid also can support local renewable integration, and at the community level here in Ireland, that's a major incentive to have the community participate in new renewable installations and energy storage and so on. So microgrids can be anywhere from an individual household, which is becoming really increasingly popular, especially with the more widespread we're seeing electric vehicles that can be vehicle to home or vehicle to grid, and essentially having a vehicle that can be the power supply for your home for multiple days, and if combined with solar could be a long-term energy storage option to investing separately in batteries. And that electric vehicle option can be part of microgrids that are at the community level or at the industrial level as well. So multiple options for how a microgrid can be structured. Community microgrids particularly important because of the additional benefit of really getting community support and community engagement in participating in the energy system. So I put in this example of Colorado getting approval from the regulator to build 6 microgrids that involve storage that's supplied by the distribution company to support the microgrid operation, but also be a flexible resource for normal operation. So just an example of where these microgrids taking off in terms of the investments, resulting in continued technology development and standardizing of the technology to make a microgrid work, which becomes more important as we need to develop standard models for this that can work in places like Africa. I wanted to go one step further beyond the microgrid and think about the whole topic of flexibility as we've been talking about, and the role of flexible customers and flexible communities in achieving the optimum level investment in the grid in general, taking full advantage of flexibility, a topic that we're talking about almost continuously now. And we've been highlighting some of the research needs that are out there. I think probably the most important one being interoperability and creating platforms that have standard interfaces for both devices and for aggregation of those devices at the home and the community level to be part of a flexible solution. We're part of an organization called Mercury that's working on standards and a certification procedure for individual devices that would be able to provide services to a microgrid or to the entire integrated grid. And then work that Avi described that's going on in the UK. We have a project at EPRI called Flexit that is working on at the platform level for achieving that flexibility. And those 2 projects are highlighted on this last slide, just talking about those interfaces, standardizing those interfaces, taking advantage of standards that are out there like IEEE 2030.5, like OpenADR, like IEC standards 761,000 standards and so on. So I think as we make the interfaces more standard and vendors can build products that work with these standard interfaces, it's going to be even less expensive and easier to design these microgrids that can provide a starting point for communities and then eventually become more part of a larger integrated grid. So that's some of the things that I wanted to emphasize. I put in a slide and we'll share these afterwards of a whole bunch of resources that we have on this in the EPRI library. You can search EPRI.com and find most of these resources, but we'll share this slide if you want to look into more technical information about microgrid controls and design. And we have a tool called Dervit that looks at the economics of the microgrids, and all that can help provide a foundation for getting these microgrid designs off the ground. Thanks a lot, Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm going to now invite Nick Singh to make his presentation. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Che. And GSEF and as APUA for affording me this opportunity to be part of this. it's always exciting to be part of these dynamic discussions. And yeah, so it's good afternoon here in South Africa, but good day to you. It's really a pleasure to be part of this distinguished panel with Ravi and Mark. I mean, these are two legends in the field. You know, I think, you know, when slide our presentation, okay, you guys can see that. So now, yeah, there you go. Okay, can I just close that? Okay, and it's out of full screen, a little bit different, so I should have done that as well. Is everybody seeing everything clearly?
Yep.
Okay, I mean, I am in full screen, right?
You're not in full screen yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Not yet.
I think I'm here.
It might be just a delay.
There
you go.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
it's in full screen now. Yeah, I thought Reggie passed on his bug to me. Nevertheless, okay, so I think when we look at what's happening in this space, I think, you know, it's quite exciting. Our decreasing consumption D was actually deemed, it was a different D, which is, when you look at these, you know, in our case, it was democratization, you know, in terms of how we're going to transition the country. But yeah, so I think, you know, the speakers have spoken more than enough about what it is. We're going to be focusing on the latter two, right? Latter three in terms of decentralization as well as de-intermediation. So on decentralization, I just wanted to add that across Africa, you know, we've seen the influx of goods. And I believe that, you know, it's not an abstract concept. You know, I believe reshaping how power is generated, distributed, and consumed across the continent. And in Africa, I think today we're seeing it the most. You know, there's opportunities as well as immediate challenges when we look at Africa's energy transition. So, you know, when we look at decentralization, I think it's essentially about, I want to get rid of this thing. Where can I move it? There you go. Okay, it's about modular systems. Alluded to this in terms of some of the work that APUA was doing. And Eskom has started this work, I think it was early 2012, where we looked at the opportunity of trying to meet one of the country's mandates, which was universal access to electricity. And I think many people have heard the narrative, but I'll say it again. You know, pre-democracy, we were sitting at around 80% electrification. Now we're sitting at access of 97, 98% electricity. But that 2 or 3% at the top still is around, you know, 8 million people without electricity, which is a crazy number, you know. So you assume high percentage households, you know, 4 to 8 people per household, which actually still makes the solution. There was a lot of terms of standardization and best practices, and we have these modular of them. And to make this work, this power is going to, and
Nick,
I mean, yes.
Nick, you're breaking up. Maybe you're breaking up. Maybe you should switch off your video. You may come across better.
Put off my
yeah, turn it off. I think, yeah, it may work.
Okay, okay. Let's try again. Yeah. Ravi. Okay, but is that better, Ravi?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll move on a little bit quicker. I do see this kind of the slides are not responding. Okay, now it's moving. Looked at decentralization. You know, general to the people. You know, so it wasn't just a technical challenge; it was an economic and a social shift that was required. So you know. Range anywhere in 40. So the design as good engineers, we knew technically what was capable, but it was about expanding this capability, and that's where the Eskom JET program came into play. Where within the JET, Just Energy Transition Program in Eskom, there were two folds. It was repowering, and they started the manufacturing of these container. Really flipped things on its head, because it was local manufacturing skills that was not there before. The table at the bottom shows, if you can, the orange in terms of total trained people over the last few years, which amounts to just over, I think it's about over 400 people that were actually trained. And it starts off in terms of SME accelerators, you know, looking at career developments, introduction to there was wind turbine training, you know, entrepreneur training, battery energy, and. So these are some of the things that need to go hand in hand whenever we do these things, you know. And if you look at now that talks to the second part of the discussion, which is disintermediation, and I believe that that's the flip side, you know, enabled by digitalization. It's about redefining your traditional value chains and, you know, and legacy ways of doing things. And consumers can now engage directly with the energy markets. And I think the speakers before spoke about it briefly in terms of the peer-to-peer trading, the VPSs, you know, and other systems that can now. And it's all about creating these new market roles and having customer-driven ecosystems, you know. And I think, you know, the more we look at it, energy is a catalyst for economic change. And by introducing I think that thing, because it means we decide, it means more. It's not just receiving electricity, it's ownership, it's choice, and it's empowerment. But it also requires very coherent relation and challenges and, you know, very transparent framing networks and frameworks and to make sure that you reality the market roles. The removal, it says I have network issues. Reggie and guys, can you guys still hear me?
You're breaking up once in a while, but perhaps, yeah, it's just finished. You can continue. Nick, you're breaking up. Can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening, causing any of. Yeah, about that, guys. Chair, can you hear me? Just the bandwidth of presentation, or am I coming through again strong?
You're better
I think
now.
it's a little bit of both, I think. But somewhere there is a huge lag of bandwidth. And so either your voice is getting shut off or your slides are not moving quicker. But
Yeah,
anyway.
no, okay, I'm going to stop the video then. I'll maybe just speak to it more than anything else. You know, I think we all know what we're talking about when we're talking about the change that needs to happen. Am I coming through clear now?
Yeah,
am
much,
I audible?
much better. Yeah, much
Okay.
better.
Yeah, so as I said, you know, it's all about rethinking these market roles. You know, basically the removal of these intermediary value chains. And I know it's difficult for utilities to move this way, but by using digitalization, blockchain, you know, all the IoTs, the smart metering, you know, it creates a huge opportunity for peer-to-peer and community energy markets. Yeah, so it's shifting the roles of us as a utility, from central generators to platform integrators. And as I said, from the consumer side, you know, it's great because you got better choice, you got participation, new forms of engagements, energy trading, more flexible market, community ownership models. And these are the things that we've seen work here in South Africa. You know, whenever we deployed these systems in the far outreach areas of the country, it all boiled down to community participation and ownership that actually made them work. Right. You know, there is most definitely still a challenge. You know, without clear regulation and interoperability, you know, I think we're going to have problems. But there's an evolution towards a transparent, secure, and inclusive market. You know, I think to unlock the full potential of decentralization and disintermediation, Africa needs policy clarity, scalable, you know, financing models, local manufacturing. I mean, you know, we're in the habit of importing a lot of our produce, including batteries, from China, right? And last but not least is the strong partnerships between governments, utilities, you know, and communities. At the G20 that just finished, I was part of putting together a funding framework for decentralized energy systems in Africa. And it was a massive amount of work that was done together by the team. It will be published soon. It was actually done through the ETWG4 on the G20. And the moment I can share that, Chair, I will do that. You know, and I think if we look at the work that's being done in the country right now, we about to start manufacturing batteries locally. And I mean, that's a massive step in the right direction. You know, we do assembly of PV panels, etc., but it's not manufacturing of the cells, etc. You know, so but I think this is really going to change it. If you look at on the electric vehicle side as well, you know, that the uptake is starting now as well. So if we can, you know, match the battery energy storage systems, charging capabilities in the countries, utilizing the likes of microgrids to actually safeguard your infrastructure, that's going to be a no-brainer, you know? So in closing, I just want to say, you know, in essence, decentralization and disintermediation are about trust, technology, and transformation. And by designing our systems, you know, intentionally, we can leapfrog, you know, as Abel said, we can leapfrog legacy infrastructure and create a resilient, inclusive, and a future-fit African energy sector. Okay, thank you. Sorry about the last bit of the slides, but I will share that with you guys, Ravi. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I have very little to, excuse me, I have very little to add, but just 2 or 3 observations. One is the last or the 5th D, decreasing consumption, did not make it in a very big way, except embedded through what Mark and Nick mentioned. And I think it's important that you begin as a fundamental pillar. In fact, I would like to see that as number 1. When we began in the early 2000s, the government gave subsidies to reduce capacity consumptions of inefficient machines, whether they were compressors or drives, up to the level of 50% or $400 a kilowatt. And that was just to reduce the burden on the network so that the renewable energies had a chance. When you have very large inefficient drives, the renewable energies then have to be augmented with so many things, which is an additional burden on the network, especially the distribution network. So that was one I thought. This second, which is actually happening around the world, is as you decentralize and you go to microgrids closer and closer to the load, you need an intelligent load limiter such that you don't take the problem of the house and transfer it to the grid. And so as you have batteries and PVs and cars and V2G, all that, you also need an intelligent load limiter which assists the inverter to ensure that you take your first steps instead of transferring everything into the utility as a problem. And therefore, this is a very big change between the developed nations, if you will, which have legacy systems from the past, and now the future systems as we build in Latin America, Africa, Asia. So that was one observation. The second was the transmission backbone, and Avinash spoke to that. And I think it's extremely important. One of the successes of China and India to have large renewables as we have is the success of the transmission backbone. And then you may say, okay, then how do I build it? In fact, the Minister of Energy from Uganda, Tanzania, and Nigeria in succession have come here. And one of the things that I think should happen, and Abel and I chaired one Africa-India session at the ISUW in March this year. And we spoke about the need for large industries. So that becomes the backbone, right? So transmission cannot be built without a large, what we call a base load or an anchor load. And so, in fact, when I go back to my younger days, Reggie mentioned about 1947 and the growth of power sector. I was born into one of those families. And every 5 years we moved as an army man because my father moved. And so the question is, when I look from 1947 to say 1970, one of the two things that India did in parallel, and it was not obvious at all in the growth of the power sector in India till 1975, maybe 1980, was the growth of two things. One was heavy industries in collaboration with other nations, principally the West. And they were anchor loads to say, you know what, now we can roll out a transmission line, which otherwise you cannot roll out with very small amounts of power. This was also the discussions I've had with Saudi Arabia. They were like going 2010, 2012, as to why now they have aluminum industries and large heavy industries, simply because they form anchor loads. In the West, even a residential community is a good anchor load because of the large per capita consumption. But that is not true in many developing countries. So you need to think, Abel, as to when you plan a network, you need to plan around large industries also to be developed at the same time. A good example would be Nigeria. The single largest refinery in the world actually sits at Jamnagar in India. And you know what? Nigeria is going to beat that twice as much by the year 2030. So that is the kind of plan that needs to now go in tandem with what is the transmission line that needs to be built to provide a reliable supply to such refineries. And I'm quite sure Nick spoke about battery assembly and battery plants. So you need to think along that. Industrialization and power system growth also goes hand in hand. Last but certainly not the least was also a second element of India's development that was on knowledge industries. India built about 30 universities as one of the first steps in the area of power systems. And it grew substantially, whether they did it through collaboration, whether they did it from bringing experts from around the world, or even to build our lab. The first Central Power Research Institute, I was a young boy and my father built it. All that was done as a part of the anchoring of the power system growth. And so from there, we built the large number of power engineers that were required so as to now do what India does. And I think those two become a kind of an embedment as a prerequisite or an hidden embedment as we roll out the power sector. It is not easy to roll it out in the way I think we think it would, in the absence of some of these key elements. So I just thought I'll bring that up as just as a touch point, because it is both top down and bottom up. Power sector today, with the 5Ds that we spoke about, is almost as a people's right to energy. And so you need to think about the low-hanging fruit, which is solar. You think of batteries now, and all that is a bottoms-up approach to enable the consumer to be more take charge of their lives. But at the same time, when you bring transmission and large generation, you need to think top down. I'll give you another good example on the board that I used to sit. I've superannuated now. When I joined the board, that EPC company, Larsen and Toubro, we did zero renewables, absolutely zero. We only built substations, we built other things. By the time my term ended, we were doing 1,000 megawatt solar plant at one location in 18 months. And we did it 5 times more. We did 3 in Saudi Arabia, we did 2 in the UAE, we've got 1 more going in the UAE. And you don't know what's happened? On the backbone of these large 1 gigawatt solar plants, we are now building opportunities for green hydrogen, because now you can go directly solar to hydrogen. So not only desalination plants was one anchor load, we are now going to have electrolyzers as the second anchor load as well. So again, these are all capabilities that you need to think in parallel and embedded as you actually draw up the roadmap as to how the African continental power picture would grow, both bottom up, which is the immediate need, and then how do you do top down for large scale projects? Because solar is cheap. There is no doubt about it. Solar plus battery is extremely cheap. So I see, Nick, you had your hand up, or you were asking a question?
Yeah, no, 100%. Say that you hit it on the head, and I think, yeah, we didn't, I didn't scurry away around the last D. I think that was left to you to talk about, Ravi, right? But I think our transmission development plan in South Africa looks at over 16,000 kilometers of lines, right? Now, so historically, our solar resources are sitting where all our IPPs have now set up plants, right, in the Northern Cape. And that was never industrial areas. There was no industry in those areas. All the industry areas are now in Gauteng and Mpumalanga on the coast, almost, I would say, 1,300 kilometers away. But it's because of these abundant resources that the IPPs have now come in and started, these huge plants in terms of our reprogram, that there was no need to have those lines there in the past. And I think our end users, our smelters, all our large power users were in other parts of the country. And I agree, we were caught with, we were on the back foot. And now we need to put those lines in if we want to evacuate those power, right? But we also, as government, need to invest these other larger power users to now set up shop in those areas, and it takes a lot of time to actually execute something at, and it's getting an interesting discussion where I can see Avinash also has his hand up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's a long journey, and I think we're on the right track. But I think to gain the traction that we need and to accelerate this, is not something that you can do as a country alone. You need to have good collaborations and partnerships to make this happen. Ravi, thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Avinash, you have your hand up.
No, I mean, the conversation that you both having just sort of triggered a thought in my mind. I suppose while we're having conversations about the big demands, I think from a UK or even Indian hat on, the peak demand typically is representative of weather and lifestyle dependence. In the UK, the peak's winter, and in India, it's summer. So I think the role of just improving efficiencies of actual utilization of energy is equally important. And that's a key theme for the UK. I think over the next few years, we are looking at energy efficiency as how can we use the available energy efficiently is quite an important theme that as a consequence reduces the demand, because if a lot of the demand is going to be wasted, that probably is something we could look to optimize as well. Just wanted to add that a bit of flavor in the conversation as well.
Thank you. So I think we'll see if there are questions from the floor. Any questions? Or Mark, do you want to add anything to our conversation and discussion?
No, I'm good. See if there's any questions. And it was great discussion.
So, Ashima, any questions?
No, Mr. Ravi Sitapati, I don't see any questions in the chat box. I believe everybody has understood everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have an ask. There is no free lunch, and we are all coming here for free for Abel and Reggie and Luciano, the big powers they are. So I'm going to throw a challenge here, Reggie and Abel, for you to consider if this is possible. If you go back to the blueprints of when I was a young man, there was a lot of emphasis in setting up laboratories, training institutions, and universities. And Abel, and you and I have discussed this in the past. So is it possible that we could take batches of X number of engineers, control technicians, all those kinds of various verticals, if you will, and actually open up maybe a year's program at some location, either in India, like the NTPC School of Power Systems, or in Africa somewhere. And I think that is what many developing countries did to accelerate their power program. And I think it's good to at least discuss that. And if possible, maybe the World Bank, Ashish Khanna, Luciano, the powers be it, should be able to fund it and say, okay, there'll be batches of 50 or 100 engineers, control technicians, telecom planners, power system managers. I see Mr. KVS Baba here, the former chairman of POSOCO. There's enough of capacity in this webinar to be able to actually provide the services for free or almost free. But you need to take that up as a kind of a framework such that somebody big person would be able to fund these engineers to be able to be put in one room and for us to come there or to be brought over wherever you wish to be able to continue this as a power development program for the modernization of Africa. So Abel and Reggie, I'll let you react to it.
Yes, on my side, we are now working closely with the Federal Bank and the government of for the relaunching of our high school of engineer in Cote d'Ivoire. That is a very significant step that we are looking after, that the discussion will follow after the installation of the new government after the election. So we are quite advanced, and I already have some talk with Reggie and the way forward, or even the former collaboration MOUs that this could have had with Canadian institutions are re-signed them already. So we have a very open partnership will be with this institute, so that our idea now will focus on vertical training when we launch this relaunch this institute that have help Africa to have significant high level engineers in the past years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So
Reggie,
any thoughts?
If there are no other questions, maybe we can close.
Okay.
Audience, anybody has any questions, you are welcome to unmute and ask. Otherwise, another 2 minutes we will close.
We see none.
Okay.
Oh, Luciano's got his hand up.
Yeah. Thank you very much for all the information that has been shared during the second panel. Congratulations, Ravi, for moderating this panel very well. I'm just want to recall that Dr. Reggie and I agreed to organize a series of webinars, and this webinar will be open, publicly open. So maybe we can also decide the topic of future webinars according to the need or the interest of some of you from APUA, from Africa, in order to be sure that some of the topics that we are going to address are relevant to you. And so we start a kind of interaction with the utility and other stakeholders in Africa in order to know which are your innovation challenges, which is your strategy to integrate more renewables and to use the digitalization, off-grid application, microgrid, whatever was discussed before. So this is an offer from us to consider a new topic for the future webinar, according also to your interest. I let Dr. Reggie to dialogue with you in order to decide what is most interesting. Thank you.
My apologies. I said in Busan when we met, we will start with some webinars in November, December, but we've been terribly busy with the different things. So we'll start in January, from the 2nd or 3rd week of January. And first 1 or 2 webinar will be, 3 webinars will be for the awards, ISCAN Award of Excellence, which you have given. There are some very good projects which were there. So I will write to them with a tentative calendar with copy to you in the coming days and freeze that, and then we start marketing. So this year ISCAN Award of Excellent projects were very, very good. All entries were very good, but 3 or 4 of them we have given awards. So we'll start with that, and then we also will take what topic to discuss, and then we move forward. Maybe at least 1 webinar per month we can do.
Excellent. And then a second comment, we are personally in contact with the AUDA NEPAD, discussing some of the strategy in Africa. It also got close to APRA, the Accelerated Partnership for Renewable in Africa. But maybe we need an additional partner like a power utility you are representing, Abel, because you are more interested to this future development that are not so far in future, but are next to us. So we will keep you in the loop in order for you to be maybe one of the stakeholders involved in this discussion. Thank you so much.
Yes, you mentioned in your speech also the Mission 300 is a combination of access and digitalization and modernization, so that in that platform we can also combine some webinar to support this initiative now with the for 35 countries in Africa having compact in Mission 300. So I'm sure that after G20 in South Africa, some outcome with AUDA NEPAD and the African Union will be made so that we prepare relevantly the coming year activities. Yeah.
Please count on us for further interaction on this subject. Thank you.
Okay, pleasure. Yeah.
I'd like to conclude. Thank you everybody for your participation and contributions. It's been a very long webinar because the topic itself was very long. There are 5 days topic. Typically we talk about 1 or 2. So the video, the YouTube video will be up, and also all the presentations will be translated into that we will be using AI tools for translation into French and Portuguese, English, French and Portuguese, all 3 versions. We will try to send it to APUA headquarters by Monday. And also those who have registered, we have the list of all the people who are registered. We had about 170 or 80 people who registered. For them also, the video link and the presentations will be shared.